Nyongji chimbo tsu denying me xiang, zong ni molam chimbo ngab jata bakar dangang san tu xirma do, tomba tukji chan la ki xiang tsar. Tsamme ye xiang sa ximbo la, xiang jib simji nye ka rab dan chong, xin tuk lam jin tu zang chirmen de kam sam ro yi nyan zu yi jar ji. Kong la simji tamba rin xin de jiba de ka la xiang tsar xiang, kong la nu pa xi xiang dem darwa. Devi Yoni Dela Jobsen. All right. Welcome back to the teachings. Good morning. Good afternoon. It's nice to see all of you through the Zoom again and giving Dharma teachings and practice together. So I hope you will learn something from these Bardo teachings, and I hope you're going to enjoy the time we spent together today. And before we start the teaching, as usual, it's very important to correct your motivation. Take a moment, generate bodhicitta, make sure that you remember the 3 sperm methods, setting your motivation, maintaining concentration, dedicating at the end. Motivation is connected with your mind, your intention, your thoughts, your energy, and everything. So you have to be mindful when you correct your motivation. And then, of course, maintaining your concentration is also important. This means to have a mind free from misconception and listen and practice without losing your focus. It's also very helpful if you think a little bit about the benefit of practicing the Dharma before you start to listen to the teachings or before you meditate, your meditation. So when you think about it, and then without the Dharma practice, life is meaningless, kind of empty. So that is how you set up your motivation, correct your motivation, and think about the benefit of Dharma practice, and that is a great place to begin. And as you know, today is the last day of this retreat, and it will be the same as yesterday and before. We have 3 sessions, and we're going to talk about the last 2 Bardos today, which is very important. And these 2 Bardos will happen after the death. So, again, we will think that I have to leave everything behind, right? When we think about death. And when you think only that, then it's very difficult to let go of everything and be free from attachment if you are not Dharma practitioner. When we die, the pleasant experience of this life will be over, and our consciousness will go to the Bardo, and usually where there is a suffering, meaning we feel lonely, we feel panic, we feel sometimes, confused, and so forth. At that time, it is unless to be attached to anything in this life. Being attached to anything at this point will only upset you when you have to leave everything behind, and that will not help you on the path of liberation. So the practice of Dharma is needed at the time of death. Because, logically, it makes sense when you ready about to die. If you don't practice Dharma, and if you have a very strong attachment, then it's difficult to let go everything. That really harms your, especially like mentally, emotionally, very, there's too much sort of sadness. So therefore, Dharma is needed. Dharma helps how to reduce and how to abandon attachment. So if you are not able to remember the instructions at the moment of death because of your illness or any other situation, then it is also important to request someone who can remind you of the instructions at the moment of death. According to the Nyingma lineage, there are many instructions to read to a dying person, such as, very common, one is liberation through hearing the Bardo. Very common, very powerful. The liberation, the great liberation through hearing in the Bardo, basically, it's in detailed and it's a lot, but this 6 Bardos covered the whole, this liberation through hearing text, the teachings. So if you, for example, every day read the Bardo root text, these 6 root texts that I'm giving, this time, the teaching. I read them every day so that each Bardos, I will remember what kind of instruction that I need to apply or practice. So yeah, so we do read, to a dying person, this Bardo teaching, Bardo, text, Bardo ritual text, and also for a Dzogchen practitioner or great practitioner, it will be enough to simply repeat the, for example, like syllable there in their ears. That will remind them, the nature mind, because Tibetan the A syllable represent the nature mind. That will be a good one if you are Dzogchen practitioner, but you are not great Dzogchen practitioner, then sometimes you need to somebody remind you because of your circumstances, you know. Also powa practice is a good one. Powa is the transference of consciousness. Powa means transference of your consciousness. That is important. And powa practice is a practice that is mostly connected to the time of death. Very specific sort of meditation for a dying person. So when your mind and your body kind of start to separate and start to lose body and mind connection, at that moment, this transference of your consciousness, powa, practice is very essential. Maybe I will talk a little bit about this powa teachings. There are different kinds of, there are five, at least there are 5 different powa practices. Some are difficult, some are not that difficult. So if, just in case, if you would like to practice or interested, you know, practice powa, I will tell you each of them very briefly. So first, there is a Dharmakaya powa. It is for people who have recognized the nature mind, so that at the moment of death, they can practice Dzogchen, the nature mind. They're able to transfer their consciousness into the Dharmakaya. That's what we call Dharmakaya powa. Dharmakaya is the emptiness of the natural state of reality. That's Dharmakaya. So this is for practitioner of the most excellent capacity. The Dharmakaya powa is the best form of powa, the highest kind of practice, because at the time of death, you just rest without distraction and the non-conceptual wisdom, nature of awareness. So there is an immediate transference of consciousness and liberation without entering the Bardo state. That's Dharmakaya powa. So basically, if you recognize the nature mind, then you rest your mind without distractions, you know, this wisdom nature of awareness, then that's it. There is no visualizations, no rituals, no prayers, nothing. You just rest and recognize the luminous, Dharmakaya. That's it. That's what we call Dharmakaya powa. Very simple, but very difficult one. And then second is Sambhogakaya powa. Sambhogakaya powa means, Sambhogakaya means enjoyment body in English, in which the enlightenment mind appears in order to benefit highly realized beings, such as, you know, bodhisattvas. The Sambhogakaya powa is for people who are familiar with practicing the Remember, yesterday we talked about Sherab and Zoram, the generation and completion stage, and together in union. This Sherab and Zoram, 2 stages in union. That is a Sambhogakaya poem, Sambhogakaya powa, and Tibetan Lonki powa. So basically, you are very familiar with how to practice the Sherab and preparation of the Zoram, and then you combined and union these 2 stages through the practice Sherab and Zoram. That is Sambhogakaya powa. Therefore, Sambhogakaya powa is based on deity yoga or yidam practice of the Vajrayana. So when you can clearly visualize yourself in the form of the deity you are practicing, and when that deity practice of experience is stable and is associated with the realization of the purity of appearances, then you are engaged in the practice of Sambhogakaya powa. And when the hallucination of the intermediate state arises at the time of death, you can transfer your consciousness into the Sambhogakaya powa through the practice of Sherab and Zoram. There's 2 stages. Very similar to the Dharmakaya powa, but they are involved in this. Sambhogakaya powa has this visualizations. Sometimes it's also their mantras and like ritual, because the visualizations. And that visualization, not only just a visualization of like deity, but it's also combined with the Zoram, which is, the ultimate reality of the deity. That is the Sambhogakaya powa. Then there is the third, there is called Nirmanakaya powa, right? Emanation body. In which the enlightened mind appears in a form that can benefit ordinary beings. Nirmanakaya powa is for people who have, for instance, received empowerments, never broken samaya, and who have received instructions on the intermediate state, and those who practice this transference with bodhicitta as their motivation, apply the practice of taking rebirth as a Nirmanakaya emanation. So they will be able to transfer their consciousness to rebirth in one of the pure lands, like Amitabha's realm, like Copper Color Mountain, Amasambhava's realm, so on and so forth. So Nirmanakaya powa is also based on deity yoga practice of the Vajrayana. But the motivation and the way they practice is a little bit different, instructions. So there are 3 Kaya powa practice, right? Dharmakaya, powa, Sambhogakaya, powa, Nirmanakaya, powa. So kaya, actually, kaya means body. But here, like Dharmakaya, body, kaya means body, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, the body doesn't mean only a physical body, but a collection of qualities. That's also we call body. So the Buddha has two different bodies, okay? A Dharmakaya and Rupakaya in Sanskrit. The Dharmakaya or the Kaya, Dharmakaya means the Kaya of intrinsic wisdom, is the ultimate reality of Buddha's enlightened mind, okay, which is empty of true existence, free from conceptual thought, beyond duality. Dharmakaya. The emptiness of the natural state of reality, that is Dharmakaya, okay? Understand? That is the definition of Dharmakaya. Then the Rupakaya, or in English, form body, allows a Buddha to communicate with sentient beings. The form body of a fully enlightened being, like Buddha Shakyamuni himself, or Pamasambhava. So they can communicate with beings, they can teach, they can help. So that is the kind of like emanation of Dharmakaya, so the Rupakaya. So now Buddha has two bodies. Again, remember, body doesn't mean physical body, okay? But two bodies, one is Dharmakaya body, one is the Rupakaya, okay? Now the Rupakaya, or form body, has been further divided into two types, the Sambhogakaya and the Nirmanakaya. The Sambhogakaya, or enjoyment body, is found in the Pure Lens. It is the form that a Buddha takes to teach high level, like bodhisattvas, which means we, as ordinary people, cannot see them and we can't hear them. It's for the highest level of bodhisattvas. That's why, like my root teachers, sometimes they hear this kind of instructions and they see the form of like this Sambhogakaya, but we can't because we are not there yet. Our senses are so impure, so we don't have that kind of karmic connection. So that is for bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas can see them, bodhisattvas can hear them, but not for us. For us, the second is the Nirmanakaya. Nirmanakaya means emanation body, okay? Emanation. It is the form that a Buddha takes when he appears in our world. So that's the definition of Nirmanakaya. So among these three kayas, it's important to understand these two kayas. As I mentioned, the Dharmakaya is the nature of everything. The Nirmanakaya is the manifestation of Dharmakaya. Okay? These two are very important because you have the Dharmakaya, right? And then you can manifest in order to help all sentient beings. From your Dharmakaya, you manifest sort of from Dharmakaya, and then you can communicate with all sentient beings, no matter your highest level or your ordinary or no matter what. We can see them, we can hear them, so that's their motivation. So Nirmanakaya is the manifestation of Dharmakaya. So these two kayas, very important because we are going to work with them, right? So if you practice Dzogchen, the nature mind, then you become a fully enlightened being. Then you have the capacity to, help all sentient beings. So then you manifest as a human being, as a or bird, as an animal, as a dog. For dog, you need a dog, help dog. Human beings need a human being, otherwise it just doesn't work. So you can manifest in order to help all sentient beings. That is basically we call Turks, this Nirmanakaya, manifestation of Dharmakaya. So that's a general tradition of three kayas. So now we have three powa practice, right? Dharmakaya and powa, Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya and powa, three powa. Now the fourth powa is called ordinary powa or transference. It is for people who practice transference by imagining the central channel as the path, the bandhu of the consciousness as the traveler, and a pure land of great bliss as the destination. So that's why this type of powa or transference is called the three recognitions, three perceptions or three recognitions. In Tibetan, Ndishi Simden. Ndishi means actually in English, Ndishi means perception, but I like recognition better because you recognize yourself as a traveler. The destination, Pure Land, is the destination. Your bandhu, the consciousness, is the traveler. So it's kind of recognition. But if you translate directly from Tibetan to English, it's perception, three perceptions. So the three recognition or three perception. So let's use the recognition. So the first recognition of your central channel as the path. Tsagoma la lamjindashi. Tsagoma means the central channel. Lamjindashi means like central channel as the path. Ndashi means you have to recognize or you know the central channel as the path. Then the second recognition of your consciousness as the traveler. And the third recognition of the Pure Land or Buddha realm as the destination. So it has the metaphor of the path, the traveler, and the destination. So this powa practice involves both visualizations and recitation. And this kind of powa practice is not necessary for those who already have a high level of realization, as I mentioned, but it is very good for an ordinary people. And this powa practice is simple, and it is also the most important practice you can do to prepare for your own death if you know how to do it. The principle is that at the moment of death, the practitioner ejects his or her consciousness and merges it with the wisdom mind of the Buddha. So therefore, we kind of meditated yesterday a little bit, right? You visualize a channel, and then you visualize the red light and goes up and merge into the Buddha's heart and dissolve in union like that. So that's kind of this kind of, you eject your consciousness and merge it with wisdom of mind of Buddha, which is Dharmakaya. So when you practice powa based on the three recognitions, three perceptions, from the point of view of conventional level reality, your ordinary way of thinking, you are sending the consciousness to a pure land. And from the point of view of ultimate reality, you are sending the consciousness into the unborn Dharmakaya, the natural state of reality. So you can rely on either of these two views depending on your level of experience and capacities. So we need to pray that our next rebirth will benefit all sentient beings, and that we come back with a lot of capacity and power. That's why this powa practice also involved with bodhicitta practice. You need that kind of motivation. You don't want to come back, finish your business, or you want to become famous, but then you die, and then you come back and you start, that's not that kind of motivation. You come back because you want to help all sentient beings, right? That's their due. Like you can see that, there are lots of good people, good teachers in this world. Now they helping like millions of people, right? That's their motivation. We can't help that kind of, we don't have that kind of capacity because maybe our motivation was not good, maybe selfish. So according to the teachings, powa teaching, the Bardo teachings, they say you should always aim for the highest goal at the moment of death. You need that kind of confidence. I'm coming back, taking rebirth for all sentient beings, coming back with a lot of capacity to help sentient beings. That kind of like the highest goal. You have to keep that in your mind. Then even if you cannot reach that goal, it will be high enough because of your motivation. So you should try your best to direct your consciousness to leave your body from the crown chakra with a great motivation. But that doesn't mean you will be reborn in a pure land or you will reach a Buddha field or the liberation. But maybe you will take higher sort of rebirth in samsara. When you come back, you do not come back sort of powerless. You do not come back with no capacities. So motivation is so important. If you come back with confusion and ignorance, then you will only create more suffering, right? So according to the Bardo teachings, the very last thought, as I said yesterday, very last thought that appears to your mind has a powerful influence on your journey and your next rebirth. That's why I always say bodhicitta. You have to remember whatever you practice at the moment of death, that practice must combine with bodhicitta. Otherwise, this selfish motivation will harm your next rebirth. And then you're, powerless. So bodhicitta is very important. So this is important because the actual experience is much more intense and powerful, especially at the moment of death. So your last thought is negative, then you will find yourself dealing with a negative environment. So if your last thought, as I said yesterday, positive, then you will find yourself in an environment where you feel confident and positive. Okay? So that is the fourth powa, ordinary powa, which is 3 recognitions. Now the fifth powa is called the hook of compassion powa, or transference. Hook of compassion. It is done either for a being near death or a being already in the intermediate state. It can be performed by a great yogi with highly developed realization and the ability to recognize the consciousness of a being in the intermediate state, or a great yogi who had strong karmic connection with this being, the dying person. So this is more difficult. You need to find a great yogi who is enlightened being, and you also need a karmic connection with that yogi. Otherwise, this doesn't work again. Based on all the right condition, then it will be possible to do this type of powa, hook up compassion powa. there is a special ritual and visualization involved with this powa too, but I'm not going to go on there now. So this powa, the best time to perform this powa practice is when the, as I mentioned yesterday, I think the outer breath has stopped, but the inner breath still continues. Then you can perform it at that very moment. That is the best time. So if they have a good experience of the instruction on powa or transference, then it's extremely helpful for the dying person. It is like a traveling person being put on the right path by someone who really knows the right path. So now these powa practices are in two parts again. The first is the training, which is what we do during our life. We practice powa and train our mind and with the visualization or whatever. We will need to train ourselves over and over again until the signs of success appears. Usually you practice this power practice is so easy, not difficult. If you really do it, you can train yourself within maybe like 3 weeks. Then the signs appear. I mean, that happen all the time in Tibet, people who practice powa. I mean, I know it. That's the training sort of part during our life. So you train in your mind and you really don't want to die. You don't have a motivation, but you just train in your mind. Make sure familiar with your mind with this power practice. Okay, that's first, the training. Then second part is the actual practice at the moment, time of death, right? So you, for example, you study, you learn how to cook, and then you have all this, a recipe or whatever. You have everything, food and everything. You learn that. Now what? Now you cook. You cook and you eat. That's kind of things. The actual practice. You train in your mind, and now when you about to die, or that you train in, you have the signs appears, and then when you approaching the death, then you prepared. So when you're sure that this being, if you help others or whatever, this being is not coming back. You're sure this being is going to die. And remember the dissolutions, the process of dissolutions has already began. Then the second part of this actual practice, powa, is ready. So the best moment to apply the powa is at the beginning of the dissolution process. So you also need to see like the outer dissolutions, inner dissolutions, or secret. I think the inner dissolution start, then perfect time to use the powa, apply the powa practice. At that time, you should let go of all attachment, as remember, to this life completely, and give yourself courage by thinking, now I'm dying, so I will really I will, rely on the instructions of my teachers and let go of everything. At the moment of death, you should try not to feel sad and afraid or any other negative emotions, and especially don't be attached to your family. Remember, yesterday we talked about anything else, and you need to let go everything and focus only on your meditation. So this kind of powa practice, if you're really good about it, then you can do for yourself the moment of death. Or somebody can do for you. Either way. So that's powa, So when you can't sort of practice actively, the only important thing for you to do is to stay calm and try to rest in the nature mind as much as possible. It doesn't matter whether your body or your brain are still functioning or not. The nature of your mind is already always there. So there is nothing new you need to learn, just to let yourself be natural. And when the consciousness leaves the body, what happens is, for those people who have no experience of powa practice or any other practice, their consciousness will go into a state of unconsciousness, right? But for those who are experienced meditators, their consciousness will dissolve into luminosity. Okay? So that is the if you want, so you can choose what kind of powa practice easy for you and you like, if you want. You don't have to practice powa. As I said, practice bodhicitta, practice nature mind. That is actually Dharmakaya and powa. So that's easy, simple, profound, vast, easy. So you need sort of good motivation, which is bodhicitta. So your Dharmakaya and powa combined with bodhicitta, then you don't need any visualizations, mantra, recitation, nothing. You just to relax, nature mind, awareness. You know that, you have that. So that's the best. So that is part of the fifth Bardo, right? Which is the luminous Bardo of dharmata. Now, more luminous Bardo of I'm going to talk about the luminous Bardo, the root text. I haven't said this. The root text, the luminous Bardo of dharmata, Chima. Now when the Bardo of dharmata appears to me, abandon all fear and terror. Enter into the recognition of whatever appears as the natural display of awareness. Recognize the appearance of the Bardo in this manner. Now that I have reached this momentous, crucial point, I will not fear the self-manifestations and the peaceful and wrathful deities. Okay. Chima tagla chunye pardon chardindar, kon la ngantang jingna pangshini, kon sharana rik pangoshin, wardun hansar imbra shibrihya, don chingala to be dishigo, rana shiru zola manjikhi. Now, This Bardo is Bardo of the ultimate reality, Bardo of dharmata, luminous Bardo. Now, all that you have gone through up to this point, including the dissolutions of elements, belong to the Bardo of this life. Okay? Now you enter the luminous Bardo of dharmata, which is the beginning of reaching the destination known as your next life. When we say the luminosity of dharmata, we're talking about the true nature again. The luminous Bardo of dharmata begins after remember, 5 elements separate and the consciousness dissolves into its nature, which is what we call the ground luminosity or dharmata. Remember, mother luminosity. Ground luminosity, right? If you wonder why is the ground luminosity experienced at this point, it is simply because all sentient beings possess Buddha nature, right? Which is enlightened essence, sometimes we say. So this essence is present in anyone who has a mind. Not only human beings, but sentient beings who has a mind. Then this awareness and essence, Buddha nature, what do you call it? Enlightened essence, anyone who has a mind. So this essence or dharmata has 2 qualities. We're talking about luminous now, the Dharmakaya. So 2 qualities, right? Dharma, this is sometimes in the Sanskrit, the dharmata, and it has 2 qualities, emptiness and luminosity. But they are inseparable. If you don't have any realization, this is very difficult to understand. It doesn't make any sense to you. But if you recognize the nature mind, oh yeah, you know it. So if you have received the pointing out instructions and keep this sort of personal experience in your mind during this lifetime, natural part of this life, then due to the power of that practice, you will be able to recognize the luminosity. You don't have to undergo any further other sort of bardos. But if you have no experience of meditation, and if you don't recognize this luminosity due to the power of ego cleaning or ignorance, then the next bardos will arrive. So the whole point of practice at this time is simply to recognize the nature state of dharmata. So this is your first experience of genuine luminosity of mind after the bardo of dying. And as I mentioned before, it is called the meeting of mother and child luminosity, remember? For a person who has received the pointing out instructions and has realization of true nature at the time of first experience of luminosity in the Bardo of dharmata, right away this person will recognize it and be liberated right there. So again, the mother like luminosity is the ground luminosity, which is the basic reality of all phenomena, Dharmakaya. And then we have the child luminosity. It is our individual experience of that nature, which our masters like pointing out to us, right? The state of Rigpa that we recognize. So that is what they called child like luminosity. But you know, in reality, these two are not different though. Mother like luminous, child like, they're not different, or they're not separate. So when the mother and child luminosities merge, and then become one, right? Ground and path become one. So it is called union of two luminosities. So this is exactly like two rivers merging together. Once they join, you cannot distinguish the water of one river from the water of the other river. I mean, they are a river, nothing different. They merged, now there's no separation. You cannot distinguish like that. Right now, individually, your masters pointing out instruction, pointing out the recognition, nature, mind. So individually, you meditate on the nature, mind, like that. And then when times, you know, like this, like inner signs appear, the sacred signs appear when you die, after death, then this luminosity appears. That's what we call mother luminosity, but basically they are the same. So now you familiarize during this life, meditate on this child luminosity, and then when that appears, when after death, the mother luminosity appears, you just recognize because you're familiar with it. Remember, the child haven't seen his mother long time, but one time when he sees, then right away, no hesitation, right away recognize. Boom, then mother and child together, like that. So this merging, sometimes people think, you know, when we use merge or unite or whatever, then you think two things, you know, but actually they are same. So this merging brings the recognition of non-duality. That's it. So when the mother and child luminosities meet, at that very moment, we can attain liberation in the Bardo of dharmata. Okay? That's why the root text says, now that I have reached this momentous crucial point, very important point this time. So you have many chances actually reach enlightenment, right? But we always miss. During this lifetime, you have chance reach enlightenment, but due to your remember, laziness and whatever, you didn't, right? And then after death, there is another chance you to attain liberation, but due to all this Bardo experience, and you never recognize Bardo experience as a dream or perception, then you believe that all the experience is real, and then all of that, then you miss chance. Now this is another chance. Dharmata, Bardo of Dharmata, is another chance you to achieve enlightenment if you recognize this mother and child, the meeting, the merging, mother-child luminosity. If you recognize, that's another chance. That's why this is, Karma Lamba said, this is a crucial point. One, this time you missed, then you have no chance. That's it. Then you must be reborn into, I don't know, maybe human realm, maybe another, who knows? So you have no chance after this. I give you 3 chances. So you missed all of that, then you have no chance. That's why this, the last one, Karma Lamba says, now that I have reached this moment, crucial point, because there's no other chance. So when the mother and child luminosities merge, if you can recognize and rest in that moment, then liberation is certain, certain. That's why that moment is an extremely crucial moment. For the yogis, if these yogis also missed the last 2 chances, this is they're waiting for this moment. And they're not afraid of death, right? But ordinary people, this is very scary moment, very scary. All right. We'll talk more about this a little bit in the next section. So I think we're going to meditate for a few minutes, please, if you don't mind. Because remember, meditation is the best way to realize the nature of your mind. Once you realize the nature of your mind completely, without any hesitation, then you meditate over again. Then you reach the enlightenment. So, first of all, just to stay with stillness for a while. And sort of give yourself permission to enjoy it rather than, oh, meditation is boring. I'm going to enjoy my meditation, which is I have chance to understand what is my mind. So when your thoughts come up, there's no need to stop your thoughts. Every time your mind is distracted by a thought, bring it back to the relaxation training. And do not focus on anything, just to relax and without thought, just to be mindful. For beginners, mindfulness is also very, very important. Very important. Even Dzogchen practitioners, mindfulness is so important. And then you practice nature mind with mindfulness, and then slowly, and that mindfulness become or dissolve into your meditation, then after that, you have the ultimate mindfulness. Then you don't need this kind of mindfulness. But at the beginning, you need mindfulness. So when you are meditating and you realize that you have been lost in thought, simply return your awareness and let your thoughts naturally dissolve and rest in open awareness. That's what I use, naturally dissolve. You don't have to do anything about your thoughts. Once you recognize and try to focus on awareness, then your thoughts naturally dissolve. So you don't have to do anything, but you have to recognize, be mindful of awareness. So if you are a beginner, you have lots of thoughts, that's fine. Letting thoughts come and go without paying too much attention to them. And more importantly, do not develop further any thoughts. And when you meditate, sometimes you have a really great experience. Then you attach to it. And then you develop further, that kind of experience. And then you hope and expect, oh, I want that experience again. Very big obstacle. So if you discover positive thought or negative thought in your mind, you don't sort of pick it up and follow it, but live it as it is. Let it dissolve right there. Doesn't matter positive or negative, just let it dissolve right there. Don't make new thoughts. I know you like to think, you like to make new thoughts, but don't thinking about your existing thoughts. Don't make any new thoughts. Just to rest and be mindful. Once your mind calm, then it brings a deeper sort of level of insight, which is direct seeing into the mind's nature. So in this way, when you are focusing on your mind, your concentration is directed towards looking at your mind. The aim of concentration is to create sort of longer times of awareness. So the benefits of, focus on concentration is, as you grow more and more familiar with meditative awareness, your thoughts will bother you less and less and less. And the more you're familiar with your meditation, then you don't have to really focus, recognize your thoughts, but the thoughts comes, but then right away dissolves. So looking at the mind and relax on it, just to remain in the present moment and focus on the self-awareness. If it's difficult to meditate on your awareness, then you can meditate on your whatever, your breath. They're actually very good method. I usually teach, that called the breath of 3 stages. breathe in. If you're very beginner, very difficult to focus on your awareness, then this is so easy. This one, you breathe in, then you pause a little bit and relax, and then you breathe out, then you pause and relax there, like that. So mindfulness is always there. So when you breathe in and out, simply concentrate on your breath. When you pause your breath between your breath between breathe out and in, you just relax, experience of sort of this calmness in between these two breaths. So that's it. If you are sort of advanced, meditator, then you focus on your awareness. If you're a very beginner, use these 3 stages of practice breath. Okay. For 5 minutes, please.